Boom, we're live. This is Tio and the Arcane Bear. We've got a wonderful guest. We've been a fan of the Road to Ruda YouTube channel for quite some time. So Bix Weir, we thank you for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for the invite. I'm real excited to be here. Love your channel. Love your viewers. It's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, we've had a few minutes to warm up and get to know each other. I think that we've got a lot in common, and I think a lot of the things that brought us to this space are very similar. So right off the get-go, what I would love to do is for the Bear family that doesn't know what Road to Ruda is, or the kind of the theory that you've come up with and some of the backstory there. Give us a little info about yourself, Bix.
Sure. I was in banking for 25 years in equipment finance for mining equipments. Gold and silver, coal, oil, even had managed part of JP Morgan's nuclear portfolio for a while, who is my arch nemesis. And then I saw the criminality in what was going on. I got out of that world. I started my own website, working with the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, Bill Murphy, Chris Powell. I worked for them since 2000, writing for Bill. At Le Metropole Cafe, one of my favorite sites. But then I discovered some things within the Federal Reserve System, that there was manipulation going on with computers and derivatives, and also discovered that there's people behind the scenes working to take out the criminal banksters that control us. And that's been my fight with the Road to Ruda, is to show people that there's something else going on behind the scenes with computer manipulation, as well as what I call the good guys looking to take out the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And now more than ever, and I started that in 2007. Now more than ever, it's becoming clear that there is a battle going on, and I think the good guys are winning.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that there's a huge part of it, and not to quote Alex Jones here by any means, but the battle for your mind and the battle for your ability to think freely has been one of the most toxic aspects of this entire campaign, because people are manipulated, not just on a technical level, but on a very emotional level. I guess what would be good to kind of help us line up the next questions is, tell us a little about the GATA, is that what they're called? Because I know they've done a bunch of research into proving some of the manipulation that had taken place. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. The Gold Antitrust Action Committee was formed in 1999 by Bill Murphy and Chris Powell. And the idea was, at the time, we saw manipulation in the gold market that we thought was the big banks, the Goldman Sachs and the JP Morgans of the world. And we saw the manipulation because things were not going the way they should have gone. The US was printing money like it was going out of style. Gold should have been going up. It went down every time something very pro-gold was announced. So he formed this group. I joined about a couple of years later, and we fought to expose the manipulation. And we have exposed it through FOIA requests, through all kinds of things. I split off from GATA in 2007 mainly because that's when I discovered that it was the banks who were doing it, and the Federal Reserve System and the US Treasury through computers and derivatives. And that's what Root A stands for. Ruda stands for Root A. It's a Fortran programming term invented in the 1960s in these computer programs that created our financial system. So yeah, the GATA folks are still out there fighting the gold and silver battles. We're closer than ever to the end of manipulation, as per Ted Butler's information, which is unbelievable, that they have actually passed off the short position to tech traders, and the tech traders are trapped with 500 million ounces of electronic silver shorts. And I'm expecting some major moves in silver coming very, very soon. So that's the background of GATA.
Nice. Yeah, I think that stuff's really important, because there are with the FOIA request, which is a Freedom of Information, the Freedom of Information Act. There were actually court cases with Deutsche Bank, I believe, and a few others, where they were caught creating types of manipulation with these derivative markets, and actually they were fined. I don't remember, no one was sent to jail, but the companies themselves were fined. Obviously, we know that they've done this type of stuff before. So I know that we've had this conversation, you and I were having a conversation about the manipulation of markets, and that we both agree that some of the reasons why the manipulation can take place is because we're actually one of the first times in the crypto space in a type of free market where the lack of regulation, the unknowingness of the average investor creates a kind of a wild, wild west environment where all these abstract things can take place. So from the GATA stuff, it definitely helped set up for what we saw in the coming crypto years. Can you? I guess let's not get. Hold on, I want to stay with silver and gold for a sec. I think silver has a lot of room for upside. You and I are both fans of Clif High. I think gold has a lot of room for downside. I did a little technical analysis on it yesterday. I think gold could actually come down to $600. And in reality, its purchasing power is probably almost already equivalent to only $600 with the amount of inflation that we've seen. So what's your thoughts on gold first? Because I think silver is going to go up. What do you think about gold, up or down?
I think gold will go up as well. We have never been, and that's more to what's going on with the U.S. dollar, with geopolitics. Gold has been manipulated, so it's artificial price already. It has been suppressed probably since 1913, truthfully, with the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank. I do think there's a lot more gold than they're saying. You know, the mainstream will tell you there's 180,000 tons. I think there's 10 times that at least. But they're not going to tell you because gold is the most important financial asset, no matter what Ben Bernanke tells you. But as far as short term, continuing the manipulation, no, I don't think gold can survive. The gold manipulation can survive a breakout of silver. So I think silver will help free gold from manipulation. And then, it's strange because the markets for gold and silver are derivative markets. There is no real silver market in the world. The COMEX and the LBMA are both derivative exchanges trading. I think the total amount of silver derivatives traded is 300 billion ounces of electronic silver that's traded, which is ridiculous because they only mine about 1 billion ounces a year, including scrap. So it's one of those things. It's like the cryptos too, not to jump over, but the exchanges are no longer exchanges of, oh, I've got this asset and you've got some money and let's trade. That's what a true exchange should be. Now it is, I have this derivative and you have another derivative, and let's throw them back and forth 5,000 times and see what kind of price we end up with. Because the silver market, clearly that's being done. And then the crypto market, none of these exchanges have the Bitcoin that is traded. You look at the volumes, and volumes are key. It's electronic derivatives being traded back and forth. It doesn't turn into a real Bitcoin until you pull it off the exchange and it gets put on the blockchain. I think that's a very, very dangerous game to be playing. We're going to see it play out in the silver market. I think very soon we're going to see, because yes, the technicals say go short silver, the technicals say go short gold. But the problem is that every short has to be covered on the way up. Historically, JP Morgan has been covering as the price of silver rises. JP Morgan has been selling into the rise to slow it down. That was their game. Now they have officially closed out their short position. The only question lies is in whether or not, when the shorts try to close out, as the price goes up, will there be anybody to sell them silver to close out their short? I don't think there will be. So silver with gold will probably run into the same dynamic where all of a sudden liquidity will stop. People will hang on to their gold and silver, even their gold and silver derivatives. And you'll see that big problem with technical trading is when everybody's on one side and then the volume stops and people say, oh my God, the world's falling apart. I'm going to hoard my gold and silver. And then where do the shorts go with covering their short? I mean, there's unlimited losses you can have when you short something. When you go long, you can just lose your investment. When you go short, you can lose your investment and 10 years potential gains you would have had, because there's no way to close it out. I think that's where we're getting on gold and silver.
Yeah, a lot of these types of leveraged bets like puts and calls. I believe that's what they're doing on BitMEX. They're actually leveraged, time-sensitive bets. Essentially, that's how they're doing the Ethereum futures there as well. One of the big differentiating factors is that in the derivatives market that you have, like the COMEX, those are traded for the future ability of companies to potentially mine those. Whereas we know that we have a certain amount of Bitcoin or Litecoin, for instance, and that, or Ethereum, at a particular, I think that they have an inflation rate set out where they do print new Ethereum. I forget what that is exactly, but the bet is significantly more stable because you're betting on the math and the trajectory of these numbers throughout time. But I think there's a great point there, is that if these companies are potentially doing background trading where the pool is significantly smaller than what they can actually pay out, that if we see something like happened in Mt. Gox, which is basically like a company run where they never had the initial pool to pay out anyways, that it could actually drive the price significantly higher and very quickly, once we realize that there was no liquidity and the ability to buy and or sell was always just as tight. I mean, because Bitcoin has a lot of room for upside. Whereas with gold, I think gold has still a lot of room for downside. Silver seems like it's got the moonshot to go, but I was after looking at the charts yesterday, I just became very weary, and I'm not particularly sure there's any reason to keep a gold mine turned on. That doesn't have the same severity in use case in industrial application, and aside from traditional or cultural inheritance, it's not. Its intrinsic value isn't as important to that of water. You know, if we end up in the desert, you're going to definitely pick water over the gold. So the value of something is really dependent upon survival. So if we end up in any push types of scenarios, it's going to be a really interesting story. Let's jump into the crypto side of things. I know we've got I know that there's some things that we have. Again, I think one of the things that really unites us, Bix, is the fact that we were, you know, I've watched your channel for a few years prior to us starting the Arcane Bear, and I think we were always looking for less regulation, less law, because it was less forceful on the people to actually, which means you have more freedoms, and anytime you take freedoms away, it seems like we're losing our battle here. So let's jump into some of the freedoms of the crypto market and some of the lack of regulation, how it focuses on critical thinking. What's some of the stuff you've found that's super important for investing in this new space over the last few years?
I think the most important thing for people to do is to understand that in an unregulated market, everything is available to manipulation, to lying, cheating, scamming. It really falls upon the investor to do your due diligence. I mean, full due diligence, even more than in a regulated market, because there's no nanny state that's going to help you with a con in the crypto world. You got to dig in, know the management, know the code, know the application, know the protocol, know the timeframes. Everything is so important. It's massively more important than in a New York Stock Exchange or the COMEX, where there's those pseudo regulators. So, and that's, I mean, at Road to Ruta, that's what I try to do is dive deep down and figure out, okay, is this a con? Is it a scam? Is the market valuation appropriate for this type of solution? Things like that. And then I got into exchanges. Are these exchanges real, or are they, like you said, are they trading more cryptocurrencies than they actually have? And I found out that is the business model of these exchanges, is to hold about 70% of what is in people's accounts, because they make money on the volume. So all the trades that happen on Kraken or Poloniex or GDAX or all the crypto exchanges, except for a couple, are all off-chain buys and sells. These are not on-chain. If they were on-chain, the volumes would not make sense, because the volumes are off the charts, but there's still only 17 million Bitcoin that have been mined. And then why are there billions and billions of dollars trading in Bitcoin every single day? Are these real Bitcoin, or are they derivatives in exchanges? My conclusion was they're derivatives in the exchanges. We saw it at Mt. Gox. The volumes were off the charts. Some big player, I think it was a bank, tried to pull their Bitcoin off Mt. Gox. That's what shut down Mt. Gox. It wasn't a hack. It was that somebody called their bluff and started pulling large amounts of Bitcoin off Mt. Gox. Boom, the whole thing blew up. That's what I'm afraid will happen with the current exchanges right now 50% of the trading volume in Bitcoin is on 2 exchanges that just opened up. And it is insane. Go to CoinMarketCap and look at markets. It is insane that we're seeing the same thing happen in cryptos that screwed up gold and silver for the last 50 years. It's derivatives being traded and not the real thing, not Bitcoin being bought with cash in a true market exchange.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and I think that we won't dive too much into what's happening in the background, because we have to really get into some technical analysis on the amount of Bitcoin going in and out of the exchanges. It'd be hard to tell if they're actually telling the truth or not, and that's what makes it difficult here. But on the other side of the coin, during our travels and the emails, the Arcane Bear, we know that there's a bunch of people, and I don't know how many of them work for the CIA or not, that were looking for OTC exchanges. We've chatted with a few OTC exchanges that do deals in the 10 to 50,000 Bitcoin range, and the markers that are equivalent, like how to pull that type of stuff off. And it's very difficult, because there are only maybe about 100 wallets that have 50,000 plus Bitcoin, and maybe only 20 of them have moved at all since 2012. So we know that the liquidity in the background is almost non-existent, that the majority of the large wallet moves, like the only way you can even move $1 billion in Bitcoin is from a single seller to a single individual. It almost doesn't exist anymore. You have to go around and collaborate with sellers to get that type of volume. Yet on these exchanges, it's happening daily, where people can buy and sell. You're like, okay, well, how come no one can make private deals that easily then? This has never made sense to me. And I think that the sentiment's being driven down. It could very well be that the exchanges are providing more manipulation of people's feelings based off this phony trading.
That's part of it. Part of the overall, when you look at manipulation, and I spent 15 years analyzing silver manipulation. Now I'm applying it to the cryptos. And I look at, some of the same players have moved into the cryptos. For example, there's a company called Virtu Financial. They're the largest high frequency trading rigger. They've never had a day where they lost any money in the last 8 years. They are now in cryptos. And the other day we saw Bitcoin get slammed instantaneously, but every single crypto fell a huge amount at the same millisecond. That's the type of high frequency trade manipulation that goes on now in the exchanges. And it can happen because these are not on-chain transactions. These are exchanges trading in derivatives and telling you, oh yeah, we've got the cryptos to back it up. So they're the big players, the big manipulators are in the crypto markets now. Is it good? Is it bad? We wanted mass adoption, but if you want mass adoption in a unregulated market, you're going to have mass manipulation as well. So I'm not saying it only gets manipulated down. It got manipulated up in September to December last year through the creation of Tether, and the Tether flowed in, bought Bitcoin and all the cryptos. It got everybody else coming in, probably a lot of high frequency trading as well. So this is reality. The problem we have is without regulators, it's up to you, the individual, to do your own due diligence on exchanges, companies, platforms, tokens, currencies. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think people often get into this space thinking that this is a quick way to make money, whereas investments aren't necessarily used to make money. They're a passive form of residual income, basically. It's like investing in an early startup business. You're not looking for returns tomorrow. We are looking at 3 to 5 year outlooks. I've owned Bitcoin since it was $90, and I bought more when it was $1,300, and I bought more when it was $200. I didn't care, because I figured the upwards trend still has a long ways to go over the multi-year pattern, and then with all the ups and downs and the manipulation, that we will inevitably break free, as this is hopefully what this technology provides. I guess one of the interesting questions I wanted to ask was, and supportive here too, with all of the due diligence that takes place. What do you look for when investing? Like, I know for me, I'm looking for usually people, because sometimes that company might fail, and the same people can come up with another brilliant business plan. I'm usually looking for the best in people. What's your favorite highlight of a team?
Well, I was trained in banking and doing deals there, and that's the number one. The number one was always know the people. Who are you investing in? Do you trust them? Are they trustworthy? Can they perform? That was always number one. And moving it into cryptos, it doesn't seem like it's number one anymore, at least with the ICO craze of last year. But to me, in the long run, the people are the ones that are going to make it or break it. And then you have the concept, with cryptos, obviously it's the code, and and the concept of how that's going to be applied to whatever business model they're trying to apply it to. And then there's timeframes. Can they get this thing up and running in the time frame that they are telling the world? There's things like security. Security has not really been the focus of these ICOs. I think it is just gigantic, and it will become the focus by hook or by crook. You'll see a lot of companies, a lot of these ICOs fail, and they'll run out of money, or they'll get their project up and running and they'll get hacked instantly. Things like that. But there's so many things you need to look at. And then who will your crypto company be fighting? If it's banking related, you're going to fight the bankers who are experts at rigging markets, destroying companies with financial leverage. And yeah, do you want to be involved in that? But at the same time, the reward of taking out a banking stalwart and being the number one guy in, say, short-term loans for cryptocurrencies, the rewards would be huge. If you can take out the banking system, ultimately, I think that's the crypto utopia, is having these banks go away and having a bank on our cell phone and you be the banker. But that's going to be the hardest. But I think with the banks have basically got themselves into a point where they're going to destroy themselves. They were given enough rope to hang themselves. So cryptos don't have to destroy the banks. Cryptos just have to be there when the banks destroy themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you. You made great points there. First off, security is definitely a huge issue in this space. A lot of people still have a hard time understanding that they're in control of their assets. It's one of the most valuable parts about this space. A lot of people argue that Bitcoin isn't tangible, but the great argument there is that math is quite tangible. If it weren't so, engineers would not be building jumps for snowboarders or buildings that can withstand time, because math in itself is tangible in the real world, and Bitcoin in itself this way is very tangible too. So I think that's a common misconception. So security of that tangibility is extremely important. Your private keys, how you store it, not on exchanges as we see, because they might not even have your funds safe anymore. And the other point there too was the due diligence, just to make sure that anyone that's ever looking into investing into anything, you should be doing a significant amount of homework into what or why it is you're investing, because this is usually saved for excess assets, not, oh, I'm going to make money off this. This is, I've built a business, I own other assets, I'm looking to diversify an already existing portfolio, so I'm going to do some research and let my money work for me. I think a lot of people jumped into this space with such a rush of like, oh, we're going to be millionaires tomorrow, which could have happened if you started in 2012. So I think that all that hype kind of confused people around the importance of security and critical thinking. But I like that the Wild Wild West is kind of teaching people, hopefully through their losses, to do a better job of keeping track of what's going on. Is there any tokens you wanted to talk about specifically?
I'm real jazzed about Litecoin, with the Litecoin conference coming up. It's this week, and Litecoin has the chance to be the holy grail of cryptos, in that it could be the future of money, the means of exchange. In the past, people said, means of exchange isn't that big a deal. The Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash theory. It was not seen as a big deal because our banking system, our monetary system, is intact today. The key is, I don't think our monetary is going to be intact in the very near future. That need for a means of exchange to buy your cup of coffee will be very, very significant when the banks wobble next time, because I don't see a bailout coming. Like in 2008, September, we almost saw the banks crash, but we bailed them out. Had there not been a bailout, there would be no means of exchange. Today, that's the reason we bailed them out, is because of the chaos it would be without a means of exchange. Today, we have the potential to create a means of exchange with Litecoin, the Lightning Network, atomic swaps, And that's what Charlie Lee's been working on ever since. I think he's in the know, truthfully. I think someone said, okay, we're planning on a banking crash in the end of 2018, have Litecoin ready so that we can implement that means of exchange, so that the transition from the old system to the new system will not be that rough. And also we have the halving next year for Litecoin. Bitcoin's halving is 2019, but Litecoin has the first halving. So I think there'll be some good announcements on Friday and Saturday of this week for Litecoin. So keep an eye on Litecoin. If I'm wrong, then I'll be wrong. It's my largest holding, and I see nothing but great things for Litecoin giving us that opportunity to say, no, we're not going to give a banker bailout.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part. Now, there's always been that argument of, currency in itself is supposed to be valued less because it doesn't hold the same value as something that has the tangible aspect of something more legacy, like gold, for instance, or silver, where you can actually touch this store of energy, like the amount of work that went into producing something or producing value. Yeah, exactly. And now we have
I can touch my crypto right here.
Now we have a new form of tangibility, which is in math through private keys and these cool QR codes. So we've seen such a revolution. Part of what really interests me is the speed at which this stuff is growing. So when I first got into Bitcoin, I thought it was money. I was looking at it more of money. But over the last few months, I've really transitioned into starting to think about these things specifically as information technology, even Litecoin. So someone posted in the chat here about Digibyte being fast, and I think that a lot of different tokens will be used. I mean, how many different currencies do we have around the planet? I think people are going to pick the brands that they associate with the people in the community that they like to function with, and that's who they're going to build with. And I think this inevitable demise of the US dollar, which has been prolonged for far longer than any of us could have possibly imagined. It's like we're living in a total, like, where are the unicorns and ponies flying around? Like we've walked into La La Land. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I think you're right. I think that the what's going to get the real pump here are going to be these underlying assets that people have totally overlooked, because they provide something that the old world hasn't been able to fix for a long time, which is the ability to create an asset that you can't just duplicate in the digital world. Digital scarcity is still brand new. Like, we don't yet know the implications of digital scarcity. It's not like we've had a whole lot of time to figure out how valuable information and digital scarcity is, because I would beg the question that information is the most valuable thing that we have access to on the planet, because it can teach you how to do whatever you want. And the internet is really, I think, promulgated this growth. So when I started seeing Bitcoin more as an information technology, the ability to go from $6,000, or even let's say we drop down to $3 on one of our lowest hard efforts, we can still go to $100,000 in a very short period of time, because this isn't money in my mind anymore. This is growing as fast as digital technology and hard drives do. This is outpacing money.
Well, I would say to that concept, I think you're right. Although I would say money is information. Andreas Antonopoulos talks about that, how money is really, it is a way to convey value from one entity to another. It is that information, and that's where Bitcoin and money cross, is that money is information, just like cryptos are information. And the exchange of value from one human being to another human being through money is really an exchange of information, because that person got that money because of the work he did, and this person is paying something or giving this person something else. It's really an exchange of information between people. That's the connection that Andreas does a great job of explaining that, and you're exactly right. And people are moving to that idea of, what happens if the cryptos go to zero? Will I still be using? And the only way they could go to zero is on the derivative exchanges that we have today. I mean, what's to stop JP Morgan from putting $50 trillion in sell orders on Kraken, because Kraken's going to take the order, of course, and then shutting down the exchange instantly and say, oh, Bitcoin's worth zero. So obviously something else will start up that will represent value and exchange of value. But the thought that money is information is not necessarily an asset in itself that's the history of money right there. It is information transferred from one human being to another.
Yeah, the communication of stored value. And I think psychologically speaking, the ability to there's a lot of scientific experiments done on children, not in a bad way, although I'm sure I don't want to go
yeah, we
I don't want to go down that road right now. But
Okay.
this was a more lighthearted experiment where they gave a kid a marshmallow and said, here, you can have one marshmallow now, or if you wait 10 minutes, you can have 2 marshmallows in 10 minutes. But if you eat the one marshmallow in this time, then you don't get the second one. And that there's an actual noticeable trait in IQ levels for the people that delay gratification, and that this ability to store value, to create more value, is actually like a deeply intrinsic thing. Because if we just hunted a mammoth and we know that, okay, now there's extra meat and I can choose to share this meat with this other tribe and we can make trades with these other people, that this store of value and the ability to communicate something of delayed gratification to some degree, I think was extremely important. But we've lost all sensibility in the financial markets. We are in a total la-la land right now. And for the first time, we're seeing information technology that properly represents an immutable blockchain, or an immutable universe. We can make trades. Carbon can trade with sodium or oxygen or something like this. We can see fundamental differences in the reality, but once it's changed, it can only change into something else. The ability for it to be reversed is impossible. So I see a lot of alignments in the philosophical story. So I guess that kind of brings us into the next part, is with some of Clif High's interpretations and that stuff. Clif always gets a lot of flack, and I really think that people don't understand what his work is. So let's have a little chat about Clif High, because I think he deserves way more credit. Regardless of whatever price we go to, that man deserves a lot more credit for the work that he's doing.
I agree 100%. Clif he doesn't get a lot of flack from people who have followed him, who understand him. He gets a lot of flack from people who bought at the highs and cryptos go down. And oh my God, what happened to $1,300 and $100,000 by December? Clif, he invented this webbot program, sends out spiders to collect psychic energy, psychic language from the internet, comes back and interprets it. The future is not set. I have never thought the future was set. If the future was set, why would we even be here living, right? The future is not set. So manipulation can play a big role in changing economic future, and I think it did. In September to December of last year was the main problem, is that a huge manipulation happened up, and then you have the manipulation down. So obviously sentiment is not going to do well. A lot of people got in and they blamed Clif, because Clif had been right for so long about cryptos. Clif runs his programs, and he gets his data, he analyzes his data, and then he puts it out to the humans. And he's always said, this is not trading advice. This is crazy woo-woo stuff. I have gotten massive amounts of knowledge just by listening to Clif, by taking the time to do some of my own research on Clif's topics, and so many great things Clif has brought to this space. And he'll be, history will look very kindly upon Clif. Yes, the cryptos are going to go up again. You guys don't worry, it's going to happen, and the manipulation will continue. Hopefully we'll get decentralized exchanges where I'm paying some sort of value for your crypto, and it doesn't have to be rehypothecated 1,000 times on an exchange. That would put cryptos in a whole new light, in that you'll have to trade one of the 17 million Bitcoin for something of value, and that's not being done today. So they can do it, 1,000 times the amount of Bitcoin can be traded. So yes, I think it all comes back to Clif High has been right. His webbot program is an amazing thing, and just not just on the cryptos, and not just on his analysis of what's going to happen to silver, but on spirituality, on human evolution, on health and wellness. C60, I would have never, most of us would have never heard of C60 unless Clif had started talking about it. So absolutely, he is. Anybody wants to talk crap about Clif, you're going to have to come see me in person, and I'll get my bodyguard to take care of you.
Yeah, I was always baffled by that. I mean, it's such a brilliant idea. I've a lot of the work and study I've done is in uh, I guess the universe of vibration and the ability to tell the future by some of the waves that might be emanating off of the new words that are coming out linguistically. There's so much reason why that would work. Like there's a lot of context to how that could work. So when I first came across Clif's stuff, I was extremely excited because to have any insight, to use it as a backdrop for all the rest of your research is not only helpful, but extremely imaginative. Some of the fun aspects that came out of the early Alta reports, they actually have a positive outlook for the future when the majority of the media and the news is always such like a everything is doing so poorly. Here you know there's okay, well look, there's a future, we can learn how to build it together. We write our own stories by the linguistics that we use. We actually create the universe around us by the words that we speak. So I was always fascinated by that stuff, and always so confused that people would be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna listen to that. Like this is a like I should bet on that chart. Like it's a for sure." Because the fact that Clif could get even close with some of the linguistics is such a valuable tool for any research you might be doing, regardless of if there's a right or wrong. You have to be able to take things with a grain of salt, and I think. A lot of his writings were really inspiring. It's one of the reasons why I started the Arcane Bear. Is like, oh, cool. There's going to be more and more room for the communication of data and value, and the ability to create value in this new format. YouTube is still like brand new to me. And I'm old enough to have watched the whole thing like flourish right in front of my eyes. So I love Clif's work. I think he gets way too hard of a time for making such outlandish predictions by using this type of thought process. It's like, and like you said, everywhere in his writings, he says, don't trade this. He's like, you're an idiot if you trade off this advice. It makes it so clear. I love Clif, and I agree. The mixing of spirituality, the ancient story that seems to be likely hidden from us in plain sight.
Absolutely.
These are all important parts of how we as a species can grow to be more supportive instead of we're in a polarized state right now. The United States look like it could be headed to civil war on the drop of a hat.
I don't think so. If there is a civil war, it'll be we the people against the deep state. I think at any moment in time, they have the documents to prove that there is a gigantic plot behind the scenes. At any moment in time, that can be pulled out and said, okay, here's what's going on. The people on the left and the right will get together and say, oh my God, what kind of game was I stuck into the middle of for these past 50 years? It's bad news behind the scenes about how we were steered around by the media. And I do think we're going to break free. And I do think at some point, probably when the banking system comes collapsing down, on purpose, they'll click the mouse. Steve Mnuchin was head of computer trading at Goldman Sachs, so he knows how to play with a computer manipulation model. Click of a mouse, and the system comes down, and then the truth can be revealed. And in Clif's data, he has a lot about truth being revealed about Antarctica, about our monetary system. He was talking back in 2000 about the exposure of the pedophilia within the Catholic Church. Nobody was talking about that back then, but his data was kicking it out. So I do think we are approaching that time where all secrets need to be revealed, and we can see just how much we were played over these past 50 years.
Yes, it's one of the interesting alignments too. If you look up the word apocalypse in Greek, I'm as far as I remember, the etymology is basically the unveiling or the revealing, and there seems to be a lot of hidden truths that have been kept away from us, which I think fundamentally keeps the entire species down. Because it brings me back to why I like Clif's reports is your ability to imagine the future growing or being bigger than it is right now. We stop blaming others and start becoming the creators of what happens next, instead of just unintended bystanders to this entire experience. So I'm super grateful we were able to jump online and go live today. We've got over 458 people in the live chat. So thank you guys for joining us. It's a pleasure. I've been a big fan of Road to Ruta. I love watching your stuff. And what I really like about something like YouTube is that it reminds me of blockchain. We're like decentralized news channels. You have your opinion, I have mine. We can collaborate. We can work with other people in the community. We obviously people know, like I've been wrong. I say all sorts of outlandish shit, but that's what you can expect from me, is that that's my opinion. It's not that I'm right or that I'm wrong. But you're going to get my opinion, and that can change over time. And I think I'm very grateful to be able to share something like this with you right now. So I just wanted to remind everyone to give us those thumbs up. If you haven't seen Bix's stuff before, make sure you head to Road to Ruta on YouTube and check out his other videos. I know he's headed to the Litecoin summit over the next week. So if you happen to be headed out there, make sure you go shake his hand and tell him he's doing a good job for helping further the idea of communication of value. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
Hey, thank you. Hey, are you going to go to the Anarchapulco conference this year or next year?
Yes, we're going to be going there again. It's one of the ones we like to put on the annual list. I guess we can actually extend the conversation there, because it's a good little segue into why not. We still have another 20 minutes. We can ramble on for a bit. One of the reasons why I really like and also dislike Jeff Berwick is because he's totally crazy. He says all sorts of outlandish things. He thought the Earth was flat for a little while, and I like that. I like that people go to their way to bend their thought and to speculate on things that are contrarian. But from a very young age, I started studying, why is my name all in capital letters on my birth certificate? Why am I part of basically sold to this system? So I started studying how to bank offshore, how to become a non-tax paying non-resident of another country while being a citizen of this country. And I know I can buy passports from here. So one of the Dollar Vigilante was one of the steps that I made into becoming I'm not an anarchist. I like to think of myself as an adventure capitalist. I like to find things that are adventurous to me, and I can capitalize off that experience. So I will be going to Anarchapulco. Hopefully everyone can join us there.
It's a blast. I met Jeff way back when he was a gold and silver guy at the Silver Summit in Spokane, Washington, probably about 2003, 2004. We were both speakers there, and I'm like, boy, this guy's out there, but how cool would it be if we could live in a world with no government and no people telling us what to do, and if I really did have my own free will to do whatever I wanted? What kind of world would that be? Jeff is awesome at that, at spreading that message, and I think we have a chance at it. It will be chaotic, but chaos is good, I think, for human beings. The most exciting things in life come from chaos. And the biggest adventures you can have come from chaos. And the biggest breakthroughs I think we have come after chaos, which is, I think, what we're inching into right now with our financial system. And the cryptos will be involved, and silver will be involved, and and the secrets they're keeping from us about our past. I'm really into the stuff in the Grand Canyon, all the pyramids in the Grand Canyon, ancient pyramids, the gold in the Grand Canyon. I was there for 2 weeks. Don't tell me that a river carved these pyramids out of the Grand Canyon. It's not true. Don't believe it. So yeah, there's all kinds of things that crazy conspiracy people might be getting right in the near future, which is really cool. I think humanity is breaking free from our controllers, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. But ultimately, it'll be a real good thing. It's going to be hard. It's like a birthing, but it's going to be real good for our ability to move forward. And I think that I'm most excited about that.
Yeah, I think it's important to stay kind of young and playful with that idea too. I saw that Jay Snip he wanted to go do a treasure hunt and this kind of thing. I'm pretty sure I know where Atlantis is. I'm pretty sure it's in the middle of the Sahara Desert, called the Eye of the Sahara. So I think a lot of this stuff is just coming to surface. And for the first time, it's like, if you want to go adventure, it's like, you can be an archaeologist. All the stuff that they're telling us about Egypt, it's like, that can't be true. It's not true. So for the first time, we can go and look with a new open mind. And I think the ability to travel is so much easier than ever before. I think people really need to start diving into some of those more I guess playful aspects of being adventurous in life, because we thought everything had been discovered. It's like, we're still finding this stuff.
Well, according to Clif, we're moving into the high-tech world of, we're going to have flying cars in like 4 years. I mean, we have them now. We kind of have them now, but they're run. You can fit one person on it, and it's like lithium battery type motors, and they work. So with technology, technology moves real fast. And we were talking about flying cars back in the 40s and 50s. And I think there's been a lot of suppression of a lot of technologies by the powers that be. So if we truly are moving into a free world, I think technology is just going to boom, and we'll get those flying cars that Clif's so excited about.
Yeah, it seems very likely. I was having a little meditation session on the inevitability of artificial intelligence. And I've been trying to apply it to, okay, so if they can already beat us at a game of Go and chess, which are two very complicated strategic games, how much better at trading is AI than we are? How long does it take until we're almost outdated? It's going to be a really wild next few years. I'm excited, so excited to be like a part of this time, and especially with what we're doing right now. Like, this is such a revolution in media. The fact that we can jump online and share their opinions, and even though there's downsides, you can get kicked off a private platform, which is no good.
Just for being there.
Right. But it's still such a unique thing. Like, I'm still blown away by this. The fact that through little cables and wires across the world, we're connected right now and live streaming. It's such a pleasure. I think I'll leave us off with that little bit of a adventure and imagination to remind everyone that, wealth isn't found in your portfolio. It's often found in the things that you do with your life, through the experiences that you have, the people that you love, and the conversations that help build relationships. So Bix, thank you so much for taking your time today with us and the Bear family. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Dio. It's been a great time. Let's do it again, and definitely get together in Acapulco.
Sounds great. If you ever come down to Costa Rica, we'll try some surfing together. And I know, actually, if you look it up, the Osa Peninsula, if you go just walk up the river there, you can find chunks of gold. It's one of the
I'm there.
Yeah, right. Gold panning. They even have gold panning tours and stuff. But it's a very lucrative area. People actually in the town. We'll leave it on there. I forget what it's called, Puerto Jimenez. People can actually buy their beer with gold. A lot of the bars will accept gold at the till there.
I'll give them gold. I won't give them silver. I'm hanging out on that one.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. Bix, Bear family, thank you guys all so much. Again, we'll leave it off. Remember to give us those thumbs up if you enjoyed this content. If you're new to the Bear family, hit the subscribe button. Check out our Telegram channels. And if you haven't seen Bix's before, check out Road to Ruta. Thank you for your time today, Bix. We'll see you guys on the other side. This is T with the Arcane Bear, signing off for the rest of the day. Ciao.